everything until such time that you cannot afford, or you cannot afford to work, but you can afford to pay. Can we try to balance the two from the start? When you start your business, you start with pillars, where either you're an accountant of your business, you're also a bookkeeper, you're also a buyer, you're also this and that and that. But as your business grows steadily, you have now to look at your indicators and say, can I get somebody to be in that spot before I get tired? And then you create a salary for that spot. Then you start to look for the relevant person. You start to do the vetting for the relevant person. By the time you find a person, you won't rush that person to get to work. You will take that person through induction to understand your culture. Because it doesn't help us to employ people that don't understand our culture as a business. Because what happens is they will come and work for us, but they don't understand what our values are. How do you work for me if you don't know what my values are? So let us create these jobs, but let us understand that we are creating these jobs for future. But at the same time, we are creating the jobs to have people that will come and co-work with us, not be employed, but to be our co-workers to help us sustain and push the vision forward of our companies. If we can have that mindset, it would be difficult for us to queue for SASA. We will queue for opportunities where we know that I will put my skill to work. Thank you.
So please give it to maybe she has it. But so you're saying that young entrepreneurs or today's entrepreneurs can adopt the concept of entrepreneurship. You know, so you in your comments is that we shouldn't just employ people because we want to employ them, but we should employ them with the mentality or with the concept that they can also start their own business. That's how you ended.
That being true, sir, but again, we have to look at it this way. If you look at Facebook, how it went viral, it was through employing a lot of people. Sales reps, making sure that somebody sells it somewhere, right? You have a product, you have been manufacturing the same product for 5 years. All that you need is to have a multiplicity of sales in terms of your sales reps. But you have that in place. You cannot say you will grow your business unless you look at creating opportunities for other people so that they can coexist in your business and be able to flourish and grow their business. And please, it should not shock us when a 20-year-old say, I've employed 30 people. Let us not be shocked about that. Please.
That's where we're going as Africa. Yes. Really?
No, I completely agree, specifically with the whole concept of legacy. You know, I think that when you create a business, you really have to have a mindset of legacy. And you know, and that means putting your ego aside and saying, you know, creating something that needs to, you know, survive past me. And so what are the things that I'm putting in place? Who are the people that I'm training? What are the kinds of opportunities that I'm creating to make sure that, you know, I always say a good leader, you know, should, you know, plan on leading not more than 20 years, to be honest, you know. Do it, you know, do what you need to do, but create the space for somebody else to come and take over. The other thing that I wanted to touch on specifically, because I'm in communications, is that we need to start talking about the whole narrative around entrepreneurship. You know, I think that entrepreneurship, specifically to youth, you know, has been made, you know, the narrative has been so glamorized and so, you know, kind of painted over, because now we look at Mark Zuckerberg and we look at these people and that people, you know, and we think, you know, we look at the end result. You know, we look at the end result and we forget about the road, the journey and the roads and the graft and the grind that it took for that person to get there. And I find that, you know, with the young people that I work in my business and you know, others that I mentor, etc., there's just this narrative around entrepreneurship that entrepreneurship is really easy. You know, go out there, start a business, you know, post a couple of things on Facebook, you know, Messenger like we saw earlier, you know, and then you get your customers and then you're in business and you make $1 million. And I think that we really need to spend some time talking to youth about actually that's not how it works. This is a commitment to, you know, it's, first of all, it's harder than getting a job. because now we have that narrative where people start to think, actually being an entrepreneur is so much easier than going to get a job.
Yes, if I don't get a job,
who wants to sit at a desk 9 to 5, etc., etc. Let me go out and be an entrepreneur. Like, start off by realizing that you're actually choosing the hard road. So.
Thank you. Please, yes, comments?
Yeah. So what Derrick spoke about, it's very, very important that what we advise our clients within enterprise development. Most of you, if I were to show with the indication of hands, how many of you have done financial projections of where you want to go in 2 years, 5 years? You'd all raise up your hands. But as a human resources, and I'll keep speaking and emphasizing on this because there's 20-30 indicators of us as entrepreneurs to improve their employment rate. So how many of you have a people management strategy? How many of you, with a show of hands, how many of you in your business do you have a human resources or people management strategy? You see, you cannot contribute towards the unemployment rate if you do not plan towards it. We live, for example, in South Africa, we are guided by the Labor Relations Act 66 of 1995, which is very, 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 very adamant in that we need to create social economic development. How are you going to create it if you don't know it? You cannot plan for something you don't know. Hence, I use this very, very juvenile example of a spaza shop. But in all the businesses, we've got people in professional environments where they can employ the people that they see around the streets and everything, but that's more reactive. So you've got to be very decisive, like Derrick said, to say that for this year, this is where I'm looking at. This is how many people I'm going to employ. Business sometimes does not go according to the way you planned. Yes, but if you plan towards it, you're going to make efforts so that you reach it. Secondly is network within people in your same industry. Find out what the issues are within the same industry so that you learn from them and find innovative ways. We're talking fourth industrial revolutions, innovative ways of delivering employment. Our topic here is employment. Innovative ways of delivering employment. Let's not be egocentric. Let's not be selfish that we want to create businesses and speak the language that we want to speak, twang wherever we want to twang. But in the meantime, December, when you go to your townships, you sit around bragging with your high-branded car and everything. The very person that you went to school with comes in and washes your car. Where is your conscience? We're speaking about Ubuntu. So you go back to the NDP. This is a call for action. All of us guys, go to the NDP and see what the human resources development goals are. You can create it today, but you've got to be decisive about it, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So a lot of enterprise development programs, they do not include human resources. So let's not beat about the bush. Cyril Ramaphosa sit in one of those discussions. But what are we doing? Do you know that we here are the best contributor of employment?
That's true.
And let me tell you, we offer the best way of learning careers and businesses, entrepreneurs here.
That's true. Thank you very much. Yes.
I'm Nadia from True Butterfly. It's a non-profit organization, by the way. So what we do is actually what you guys are also talking about. We kind of give people the opportunity to learn so much about the entrepreneurs industry that they are also able to create their own jobs when they finish high school. So we work with teenagers from 13 to 19 years of age. So we work with them so that they are conscious about the decisions they make for tomorrow. So we're looking at the 2020 is so close now, 2030 type of outlook on entrepreneurship and also entrepreneurship development, because we do realize that a lot of people know that they can start jobs any day, but they don't know who will they employ, where will they start, and how will they go about in starting or telling somebody. Being in a leadership role myself, I found it difficult to give people direction, employ people, because employment is not just delegation on what to do. It's more of the value of what you have to put in, the values that I have in my company and the brand that I'm bringing to the environment or the community is the same thing that all of the volunteers in my business need to know about. And luckily there are volunteers and I don't have to pay them, but I know that the strategy is very important, that I motivate them. You know, even in my my speeches, I make sure that I motivate them to stay, because it's very difficult to stay in a place where there's no money. So we as leaders and as entrepreneurs, we need to learn the value of motivating our staff.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would like to comment on what Nadia said on motivating the youth, even if you can't pay them, enough, so to say.
I think maybe it's also time that as organizations, in as much as we have this youth volunteering, we need to kind of quantify the value that they are putting into what we are doing, and come up with ways and means and say, how do we sort of monetize what you're doing? Be it that we are not paying you, but would our CV, our reference, be enough for you to get a job? Even if we're not going to pay you, but because some of these people, imagine staying with an organization, let's say Butterfly, and after 8 months, they look for a job and they phone Nadia, and Nadia, the employer doesn't get where Nadia is actually. And the employer can say, no, we're not going to hire you. But I think organizations, let us sell something to these people and say, in the next 6 months, in as much as you may not have your job, what is your dream? Do you want to start your own business? Or do you want to look for a job? I've worked in my life with people for 6 months, not more than that. After 6 months, you either get a job or start your own business.